What's going on YouTube? It's Teach back again with another video, and today we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers and our 2021 NFL season preview series. Excited to bring this video your way. Hopefully you all enjoy it, and if you do, please hit that like button. It really would help me and my videos out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want to help us get to 300 subscribers, hit that big red subscribe button and give me your thoughts on this San Francisco 49ers team down in the comment section. 1, do you think they stay healthy? 2, how many wins do you think they get? Some X factors, some games you're looking forward to watching them play. Love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment, so let's talk about San Francisco down in the comment section. Starting things off with a win range, 9 to 14 wins. I think this team, even with some question marks at quarterback and its injury history, I mean, this team won 6 games last year with almost no starters of their true starters on defense, no Jimmy Garoppolo. Now they already inherently have a better option as a backup plan. If something were to happen to Jimmy G or vice versa, something happens to Lance, you have Jimmy Garoppolo, assuming they haven't traded him by that point. Regardless, I think this team is good for at least 9 wins, but their upside is a Super Bowl contender and a 14-3 team that could win the division, and it's the best division in football. So that kind of speaks to where this team is at. Additionally, you have a fantastic head coach, a GM that has done a fantastic job. Really, when I remember when John Lynch got hired, I was like, yeah, that's interesting. It's definitely different, and it's been one of the best hirings of the last half decade or so in the NFL. So he's done a fantastic job. He brought in Kyle Shanahan. We obviously know what he can do as a play caller, which obviously helps out Trey Lance and company's job a ton. My projected win total, 12-5. Have them ultimately as the highest seeded wildcard team, just a game behind of the LA Rams. But when you see my updated season predictions for each and every team, there's definitely some games in the Rams schedule that I give them as wins, like one against Tampa Bay, one against Green Bay, especially that Green Bay game in Lambeau. There's a couple games in there you might say, like, it's probably not going to happen. You could flip the other way. It's just how I saw it, how I was feeling that day, right? It's everyone's opinion. Everyone has a right opinion in their mind. So I have them a game back of the Rams, but I think this is ultimately the best team in the division. So, maybe I'm a little hypocritical for doing that. Some of it comes down to scheduling, who you have at home. Thursday Night Football plays a factor in that a couple times for both these teams. But no matter how you spin it, these are two of the best teams in the NFC. And if everything hits right, these two teams definitely have a chance to win the Super Bowl. So realistic goal for the 49ers, win the division. I think that's definitely in play. And Trey Lance flashes. So you could be and or your pick. Ideally, in a perfect situation, maybe this should be the reach goal. You win the division and Trey Lance flashes. Maybe it's a slower start. Maybe Trey Lance has a couple of bad games midway through the season. Their bye week's week 6, so I think it's logical before that week 7 game, Sunday Night Football against the Colts. Maybe that's when you see Lance become the full-time starter. It depends on his mechanics. That's what they're working on. So there's a lot of variables with that position and in turn with this team's projected outcome. But if you don't see Lance this year, the goal should be win the NFC West. If you do see him, you hope he gives you some moments and some confidence. Like, hey, we traded up to 3. We got the guy who can get us to a Super Bowl one day. And ideally, you could win the division. Reach goal, win the Super Bowl. And if you're going to do that, I think you do it with Lance. I know Garoppolo came a throw within getting the 49ers to Super Bowl a couple years back, but the defense was better that year in San Francisco. And I think Kansas City was a little bit worse, especially on the defensive side of the football, then versus now. So because of that, I think it has to be Lance just because he gives you a higher upside. You would need him to hit his, year 1 ceiling for you to win a Super Bowl, and everybody has to stay healthy. Like, you got to have Nick Bosa back at full strength. You have to rely on some of these X factors like Javon Kinlaw taking a big step forward in year 2, Emmanuel Mosley playing at a level he hasn't done quite yet. All those things are possible, but you need all of them to happen simultaneously, not just one here, one there. So because of all that, it's possible, and that's why it's a reach goal. And that's ultimately what this team should be vying for. X factors that can help them get there. A couple of second-year players. Brandon Ayuk, I think, has the best chance on this team to be a legit number 1 go-to wide receiver. He does it a little bit different, right? Like, it's tough. We grew up, at least people my age, 23 years old, we grew up with Calvin Johnson. That's just kind of like what we envision a number 1 wide receiver. And then, before that, you had the 2007 Randy Moss, where he was just dominant. Him and Brady were fantastic. In that, 6'2", 6'3", that's kind of like the size, big body wide receiver that we've kind of shown favor towards. And Brandon Ayuk is just not that guy. He almost makes me think, not quite the similar player, but the fact that they can be a true number 1, him and Terry McLaurin can be that legit, every play you need a big play, you go to those guys type of dudes on the outside. He also can play inside, do a lot of different things with both of them, but they're not that, 6'3", 220, 225, these behemoths that had previously been coveted and seen as that's the build. You have to be that to be a legit number one, best wide receiver on a team. I think that's changed a little bit. Ayuk does have good size and he has a good frame. I'm not calling him small, and I'm not saying Terry McLaurin's small either. They both have enough size, but they both have different skill sets. And in specific, they're two of the best route runners in football. I think Brandon Ayuk, when he's out on the field, pay close attention to it. This dude can separate like no other. And it's really something that's kind of sneaky about his game. I feel like that's just something nobody really talks about when they talk about Brandon Ayuk. Like, he gets open at a really high and efficient rate. So something to monitor throughout this year. And if he continues to do that, he has the best chance in my eyes to be this team's number one wide receiver. And if you give this team an elite, legit number one target with George Kittle as a tight end, Deebo Samuel then can be this dynamic gadget number two player. The offense just kind of falls into its proper place for Kyle Shanahan, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, everybody involved. So Brandon Ayuk taking that step forward in year two, which I definitely think he has a good chance to do it. This wide receiver class, year two of this wide receiver class from the 2019 class, fantastic. And they all have really good shots. Ayuk, Laviska Shenault, Chase Claypool, you name it. There's a bunch of players that kind of come to mind in that category. Then on the other side of the ball, Javon Kinlaw, and he was pretty open after his first year in San Francisco, talking about he just did not have the coaching to get him NFL ready as a pass rusher, and now he's starting to get that proper direction, which says a lot about, considering he's coming from South Carolina. It's a pretty big school, right? Like Power 5 and best conference in football. It says a lot, but wasn't properly coached up on how to pass rush. That's really interesting. And now he goes to an organization that's done a fantastic job getting a lot out of their pass rush, and it's a very pivotal part of that defense. So for new defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, he's going to need Javon Kinlaw to take that step forward. And you still have Eric Armstead, have Nick Bosa coming back. There's some good pieces across the rest of that, front four. So you don't need Kinlaw to be a world breaker or anything like that. He doesn't need to be DeForest Buckner, who he's essentially replacing, really is the replacement of. He just needs to be better than he was last year. And if he does, that continues to move this defense's needle in the right direction, because you compare this defense to 2 years ago, Kinlaw might not be as good as Buckner, but neither is the secondary. So you just need Kinlaw to find that happy medium between being, fantastic like Buckner, which if you're a 49er fan, you'd love to see, but just better than where he was last year. And I think that's a realistic goal for him to hit this year. And our final X factor, Emmanuel Moseley. This guy opposite of Jason Verrett, so take your pick here. Either one could be the final X factor. They've just got to be really fantastic outside as the cornerback position. That's the one area of weakness, really, when you look at this secondary or this defense overall, is the cornerback position. You're just not a whole lot of names you're super familiar with. No star power in that group. Jason Verrett's always been pretty good, but always battling injuries, starting to get a little older. He's into his 30s now. How well does he hold up? And Moseley's a guy who's shown flashes. He's had some moments and some plays to make you say, oh, okay, that guy could be more than just a starting corner. And if he plays like that consistently 17 games this year, this San Francisco defense is legit, right? Because then you kind of give them, I'm not calling him Richard Sherman, but you give him that number one corner, a guy who can just blanket a third of the field, or if they play more quarters, one of the 4 quarters that you'll have out there. If he can just do that, that makes this defense that much more elite, and it forces quarterbacks to run the ball, lets their pass rush do their thing. Everything kind of comes into place with a positive snowball effect for the 49ers. So Moseley, obviously a big factor, him and Jason Verrett. But if I'm just going to put one, I figured Emmanuel Moseley, given he's a little bit younger, we've seen those big play abilities and those flashes. He makes a lot of sense for somebody who could take a step forward and be a huge X factor, take this team from being really good to great. Games to watch week 3 against the Green Bay Packers. Obviously a game you have to watch, battle between maybe the 2 best teams outside of Tampa Bay from the NFC. There's a legit argument to be had there. So got to watch that one. 49ers match up really well with Green Bay, especially considering the Packers are going to be without David Bakhtiari at the beginning of the year, and even across the rest of the offensive line. Elton Jenkins is fantastic, but the Packers are getting a new center. What are they doing at right tackle? Right now it's Billy Turner, who's been a career guard. A lot of question marks there, and overall I just think this front four for San Francisco perfectly highlights the weakness that Green Bay will have this upcoming year. And they beat them twice in the season 2019, where the 49ers ultimately ended up going to the Super Bowl. So I think there's already somebody who matches up really well with Green Bay. Week 7, this is after San Francisco's bye week, And I think, by now you're probably seeing Trey Lance take over at quarterback. A lot of it's similar to where Josh Allen was with Buffalo, and that's where I kind of compare the two. Not necessarily the same player, but you're refining their mechanics, and there's no real judge to how long that's going to take, right? Like if you get an injury, you can have a medical timetable. Fixing someone's throwing motion and making them comfortable with it is really, really challenging. So it might be something that maybe it's after week 1. Maybe it's after week 6, after their bye week, and you can install a game plan before the Colts with Trey Lance under center. That makes sense to me. And it might be something where he's just not ready year 1. Like, there is just no real way to know other than if you're there in the building, watching him throw, watching him try to make those tweaks. So time will tell the story. But I think after the bye week, I think that's a logical spot for them to, hand it from Jimmy G over to Trey Lance. Plus, you have the trade deadline right around that window a couple weeks later. So you will have gotten enough of a sample size to potentially prop up some trade value in Jimmy Garoppolo. Keep in mind, this team doesn't have a first-round pick the next couple of years due to the Trey Lance trade or moving up from 12 to 3 to get Trey Lance. So I could see Jimmy Garoppolo being very expendable this trade deadline. They might also wait till next offseason, but it comes down to who gets hurt across the league, all those varying factors that we just don't know yet. But this is also a game to watch because it's Kyle Shanahan versus Frank Reich on Sunday Night Football. I mean, this is a primetime game. Everybody, if you call yourself a football fan, you got to watch this and watch two of the best play callers and play engineers in the game go at it, toe-to-toe. I mean, I'm super stoked. And it's two teams with really good defenses if they're healthy, right? Plus a little bit of the DeForest Buckner revenge factor in this. This is one of the most anticipated Sunday night games I have, in my opinion. Honorable mention to a Week 12 game against the Vikings. I actually like the Vikings in that game. Watch my season predictions video that'll be coming out here pretty soon. I explained a little bit more in depth there. That's an honorable mention. Week 16, this is Thursday Night Football, and this would be just a huge win. Short week, and San Francisco is the one doing the traveling, going 2/3 the way across the country. It's just always tough on Thursday night games when you're not the one staying at home to, one, battle that travel and the effect that has on your team. Also, just less time to prepare, especially when you are spending a day with it, minimum, traveling. So this is a game where if San Francisco were to come away with a W, that'd be huge. Plus, it's prime time, late in the year. This would do a lot for people buying into the San Francisco's, late season push, getting into the playoffs. Maybe they're a sleeper, they're a wild card team that could be dangerous, or they're going to, beat the Rams to win the division, especially if it's close between the two. This could be a game if the 49ers take it from Tennessee in Nashville. Goes a long way to convincing people that the Niners are legit. But that's going to do it for my 2021 San Francisco 49ers season preview video. Tell me what you think about this team down in the comments section. Do you think they stay healthy? When do you think we see Trey Lance? Some wins, projections, X factors, games you look forward to watch. Love to have your thoughts, and I respond to every comment. So let's talk about the 49ers down below. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It really would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want to help us get to 300 subscribers, hit that big red subscribe button. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.